Discover 9 sinister encounters with haunted feral people in Appalachia's dark woods. Fear file. Sarah's heart raced as she trudged home through the dense fog that wrapped the world in a shroud of secrecy. Pine Hollow was a small, isolated town, swallowed by the looming mountains that hid stories even the bravest wouldn't dare uncover. Darkness loomed thick and heavy, leeching the warmth from her body while whispers of her father's tales echoed in her mind. Horrific legends of the feral people, once human but now something else entirely. A chill slithered down her spine as she remembered the unsettling stories of those who wandered too close to the cursed woods, lost forever to the darkness beneath the gnarled branches. Every night, she passed those woods, wondering about those fables. They took root in her nightmares, crawling into her dreams while she tried to escape her reality. Financial strain, sleepless nights, and the haunting memory of the man who had once been her pillar. Now, all she had was her precious daughter, Lily. The laughter and clattering dishes of the diner stood in sharp contrast to the oppressive silence surrounding her. Tonight, however, a sound cut through the quiet, a rustle far off. Her instincts screamed danger. As she walked, she caught a glimpse of Hank, her reclusive neighbor. His tall frame slipped into the woods clutching a backpack like a lifeline. Behind him, shadows stirred, weaving through the trees like phantoms. Whispers from town haunted her, that his family had dealings with dark forces, the whispers of the feral people who disappeared into the mist and never returned. Were his erratic outings connected to the growing eeriness that enveloped Pine Hollow? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, with Lily tossing and turning in her sleep, groaning through nightmares that left her breathless. Sarah's unease grew. Each night, it became harder to soothe her daughter, who would awaken in terror, claiming to see a shadow beckoning from beyond her window. A haunting wail spiraled through their home, paralyzing Sarah with fear, an echoing reminder that something dark was hunting them. The sheriff's dismissive words drunk at the diner, spinning tales of yesteryear offered no comfort. She felt abandoned by the world, the weight of responsibilities twisted her stomach into knots. Then, it happened. Following an odd, almost human sound, she found herself standing at the wood's edge, heart pounding. Howls crested behind her, resonant with a sickening hint of human anguish. Her breath paused as she recalled the folklore. The feral people, their stories might not be fiction after all. Anguished wails seemed to beckon her deeper into the forest, whispering secrets of her own family and Hank's lineage. Panic swallowed her whole as their connections unraveled before her. She clutched Lily's hand tighter, standing at the threshold of uncertainty. What waited in the shadows? What stories would be unearthed? The very trees seemed to breathe around them, rustling ominously as fear reached its apex. With a final chilling howl echoing through the night, Sarah knew they were not alone. Someone was waiting, and the darkness craved more than just their fear. Sarah stood frozen at the wood's edge, her heart pounding against her ribs like a desperate bird trying to escape. The shadows twisted and danced, even the trees seemed to lean in, watching, waiting. Lily's tiny hand trembled in hers, a soft whimper escaping her lips, a sound that pierced through the thick silence of the night. "Mommy, can we go home?" Lily whispered, her wide eyes reflecting sheer terror. "Yes, sweetie, we'll get home," Sarah said, forcing a calmness into her voice that she didn't feel. But she was rooted to the spot, the ancient trees appearing to close in around them. From deep within the woods came that odd sound again, a low chuckle mixed with a guttural growl, vibrating through the ground like an unsettling promise. Sarah's instinct screamed to run, but her legs felt heavy, weighed down by an unnatural pull, an urge to step forward into the murky depths where light dared not reach. "Lily, we have to move," she urged, but her feet felt glued to the soil, as if the forest itself didn't want them to leave. What was this thing, this terrible force that hungrily lurked just beyond the shadows. She had heard the old wives' tales, fables of children being spirited away, of whole families vanishing without a trace, devoured by the feral ones supposedly living in the unforgiving forest. Lily tugged at her mother, pulling her back from the brink of madness, and with sudden desperation, Sarah snapped out of the trance. They stumbled backward, adrenaline surging through her, and the woods reluctantly released them. Just as they turned, a faint glow flickered within the trees, soft yet unnerving, beckoning with an irresistible allure. It pulsed like a heartbeat in the darkness, and Sarah felt her resolve crumbling like dry leaves underfoot. "What is that?" Lily asked, her voice quivering. I don't know," Sarah stammered, dread pooling in her stomach. "But we need to go." As they rushed away, the echoes of laughter inhuman and jarring trailed behind them like a sinister farewell. The sounds twisted into something that resembled a cry, haunting and indistinguishable, reverberating through the forest. Rushing toward the safety of home, they reached the edge of town, drawing a deep breath of relief, but it was short-lived. The flickering glow was now at the very periphery of her vision, dancing just beyond the tree-line. A thought slithered into her mind. Maybe she should have followed it. What truth had she just rejected? What if the feral people knew something? Lily tugged at her sleeve, breaking the trance. "Mommy, can we never go back to the woods?" "Yes, my love," but Sarah hesitated, then straightened her back. "But we need to tell somebody. We need to warn people about Hank." They moved swiftly, not daring to look back. Yet the chill of the woods clung to them, creeping into her bones, whispering things that made no sense. She felt a shift in the air, as if the forest was alive and watching, lying in wait for their next move. As they approached their home, a sudden tremor rattled the ground beneath them. The trees shivered violently, a soft howling rising in unison. Something was angry. Something needed to be fed, but what if this was just the beginning? What if the shadows had found them and were ready to pursue? The thought gripped her heart in icy claws as she bolted through the front door, locking it behind them, yet knowing deep down that the safety of the wooden frame would offer little comfort. "Mom?" Lily's voice was barely a whisper now. "What, honey?" Sarah replied, barely managing to breathe. "Is this what happened to the people, the ones that disappeared?" A hollow dread filled the room. Sarah swallowed hard, the weight of her daughter's question sinking into her very marrow. They had escaped for now, but shadows still loomed, secrets still lurked. What part of the forest claimed those lost souls? What would they find if they ventured back, and was it truly over? A scream pierced the silence outside as the night deepened, heralding shadows hungry for more. What if they came for Lily next? The night dragged on, thick with tension and unanswered questions. The shadows outside moved like whispers, twisting around the porch post and reaching for the windows. Sarah pressed her back against the door, half expecting the darkness to burst through. Lily's small figure was tucked under a blanket on the couch, her eyes wide, reflecting the flickering light of the old lamp as if it were a fragile shield between them and the horrors outside. "Mommy," Lily whispered again, her voice trembling. "What if they find us?" "They won tea, sweetheart," Sarah lied, though the words tasted bitter on her tongue. But the outside world felt different now, charged with an energy that made the hairs on her neck stand up. She thought of the glowing light, the laughter echoing like a chant meant to lure them back. The very air around them was tainted with a chilling threat, and the thought of Hank drummed in her mind like a war drum. The once familiar sounds of the neighborhood felt unsettling. The wind brushed through the trees, sounding like whispers in a language long forgotten. Suddenly, a loud thud against the back door jolted Sarah. She froze, her heart racing in her chest, desperately thankful for the flimsy lock that stood between them and whatever horror stirred outside. "Mom!" Lily exclaimed, clutching her doll tighter. The innocent object of childhood now felt like an anchor in the encroaching darkness. Drawing in a shaky breath, Sarah shifted toward the sound. She felt a pull, a sickening desire to throw open the door, to see what waited beyond. But then came another thud, this time joined by a scraping sound, a desperate claw seeking entry. Panic gripped her throat as fear gnawed at her resolve. "Stay here," she ordered Lily, her voice firm but trembling. "I'll check the back door." She tiptoed through the living room, each step feeling like an eternity. The air seemed to thrum with an unspoken threat as she reached the door. Heart pounding loud enough to drown out any other sound, she placed her hand on the cool doorknob. A surge of adrenaline pushed her to act, and she twisted it open just a crack. "Please," a raspy voice slithered through the gap, sharp and beckoning. "Help us." Sarah's gut twisted at the desperation in the words. Outside, she could barely make out silhouettes against the moonlight, figures that had too many limbs, moving unnaturally, like broken marionettes. They were not just shadows, they were faces she couldn't recognize. Their eyes glowed faintly, mirroring the eerie light that had beckoned her in the woods. She felt warmth drain from her body, replaced by a cold dread that paralyzed her. Who are you?" Sarah forced out, pulling back instinctively. "We're lost," the voice wheezed in reply. "The woods, they've taken everything. We need to go home." Lily whimpered at her feet, tugging on her mother's jeans. "Mommy, close the door." But the whispers grew louder, swelling like a swell of unholy voices. "You can help us," the figures pressed, stepping closer, their silhouettes blurring into a grotesque amalgamation of twisted faces and stretching limbs. "Join us, we can show you." "No, no, no," Sarah gasped, slamming the door shut and falling back against it, her mind racing. Was this what happened to those who disappeared? Did they become these twisted figures, searching for relief in the darkness? A sick ache gripped her stomach, but the chaos outside intensified. The thuds grew louder, an unrelenting pounding, as they clawed at the walls. "Let us in. We just want to show you the truth." Ignoring the pleading voices, Sarah whipped around to grab Lily's hand, the warmth of her daughter grounding her as panic began to crawl back up her throat. They rushed into the kitchen, deciding that they'd barricade themselves there, hoping it would keep whatever horrors lay outside at bay. As she pushed a chair against the door, the whispers devolved into incoherent screams, a cacophony of despair filling the air. Then, just as abruptly, silence fell. Lily looked up at her mother, eyes wide with fear. "Are they gone?" "I don't know," Sarah breathed, her pulse quickening. But the stillness felt wrong, an eerie calm settling over their home as dread pooled in her gut. "Mom," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "What if they come back?" Sarah swallowed hard, unable to find the reassuring words. The weight of the night pressed down, the specter of terror lingering just beyond the threshold. Then came a soft thud, definitive and persistent, against the window. "Mommy!" Outside, the whispers returned, wrapping around her like a nightmarish blanket, each syllable pulling her towards something she couldn't understand. But what if the truth awaited beyond the glass? What if they had a choice to make between survival and the shadows lurking in the deep? Sarah's heart raced as she held Lily close, a tense silence enveloping them. The darkness felt alive, a palpable force pressing against the walls of their kitchen like a monstrous tide. The light from the flickering lamp cast shifting shadows that danced menacingly along the walls, adding to the oppressive atmosphere. "What do we do?" Lily's voice trembled, barely a whisper. "We wait," Sarah whispered back, even though the word felt hollow. She glanced at the window where the faint thuds echoed ominously, mingled with frantic scratching, the sound of something desperate to get in. As the noise escalated, Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand tighter, feeling the small, warm pulse of life that afforded her some solace. Suddenly, a crash shattered the night, sending splintered wood flying. The back door buckled under relentless force. Panic surged through Sarah, her breath quickening. She turned toward the kitchen counter, her mind racing. "We need something, we need to defend ourselves," she muttered, her eyes darting around for any possible weapon. Lily's eyes filled with tears, her grip tightening on her doll. "Mommy, please, I'm scared." "I know, baby, I know." Sarah's voice cracked. "Just stay close." She found a heavy frying pan and wielded it like a shield, her heart thundering in her ears. The cacophony intensified. The back door held firm for only so long, until one final impact sent it crashing inward. In the dim light of the kitchen, Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the first figure slithered through the opening, twisted and deformed, an abomination of limbs and haunting eyes glimmering with primal hunger. "Help us! Help us!" It rasped, and behind it came more, an unsettling throng of grotesque shapes all reaching toward her. Their voices echoed in her mind like a terrible siren. "No!" Sarah screamed, swinging the frying pan with all her strength. The iron connected with something soft and wet, and a scream tore through the room, mixing with the otherworldly chorus that enveloped her. "Mommy!" Lily cried, her voice full of unrestrained terror as Sarah pulled her daughter behind her, shielding her as the shadows advanced. Each figure moved with a nightmarish grace, skittering and shifting almost like they were part of the very darkness that birthed them. The kitchen could no longer contain the horror. Sarah backed against the counter, her heart pounding so fiercely she felt dizzy. The wretched creatures drew closer, their breath hot and foul, the air thick with despair. "We were lost." One of them groaned, its face but a mask of pain. "Lost just like you. Let us show you the way back. Get away." Sarah screamed, her voice barely breaking through the din of desperate pleas. A primal instinct took over, she began to retreat, dragging Lily with her toward the only escape she could see, the darkened hallway beyond the kitchen. As they stumbled back, Sarah glanced behind and saw more figures pouring through the doorway, crawling over each other in a frenzy, their eyes locked on them with predatory hunger. Without thinking, she pushed Lily ahead of her, forcing her to move faster. But the tight space of the hallway began to close in, each step feeling heavier as shadows leapt at them from every angle. "Mom, I can't." Lily sobbed, her legs starting to falter under the weight of fear. "Just keep moving." Panic surged again, and Sarah snatched her daughter's hand, guiding her toward the front door. "We have to get outside." But just as they reached it, the twisted forms surged forward, blocking their escape. The air whipped around them, filled with tortured cries, and Sarah's heart sank as she understood the futility. There was nowhere to go. In a last-ditch attempt, Sarah threw herself against the door, praying the force of her body would break through. "We can't stay here," she yelled, her voice hoarse with desperation. In that moment, a horrifying realization washed over her. What if there was nowhere else to go? What if the monsters outside were not just looking to get in but were meant to lead them somewhere far worse? "Mommy!" Lily screamed, the sound slicing through the chaos, and as Sarah braced herself to face the nightmare ahead, a new set of silhouettes emerged from the abyss. Their eyes glinted with a predatory glimmer, driving a deeper terror into her. But the whispers intensified, wrapping around her mind like vines, intertwining the promise of something different. Now the choice felt heavy. Could she trust the shadows, or would they lead them to doom? Time stood still, and Sarah knew she had to make a decision, and fast. What if she was being lured deeper into the woods of despair, where hope withered and the truth became a weapon? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, a relentless drumbeat of fear as the shadows pressed in. Around her, the whispers thickened into an almost tangible fog of despair, weaving darkness into a trap, and snaring her and Lily. "We need to go." A voice, deeper and colder than the rest, echoed in the back of her mind, urging her toward the unknown. "Mommy!" Lily's small hand trembled in hers, the warmth grounding Sarah even as the bile of terror clawed at her throat. The figures writhed closer, their skeletal fingers stretching toward them, pleading, yet predatory. It was impossible to reason with the madness unfolding before her. Sarah could only hold on to her daughter and whisper quiet assurances, though their foundation felt as shaky as her own nerves. Suddenly, one of the creatures lunged, its gaze locked on Lily. Sarah shoved her daughter behind her, swinging the frying pan again, adrenaline sharpening her movements. The pan connected with a sickening thud, and the creature howled in rage. The sound seared through the noise, silencing everything for a heartbeat, but dread washed back in. Keep moving. Now. The command ripped from her lips, spirited by raw panic as she pulled Lily down the hall, the kitchen lights fading behind them. A hissing breath brushed against her neck as they ran, the air heavy with a stench she wouldn't permit herself to identify. They barreled through the hall, Sarah's mind racing, calculating, excruciatingly aware that they were cornered. The front door was just ahead, but her instincts screamed that they'd just run deeper into the beast's den. With shaking hands, she reached for the knob, twisting it with all her strength even as something else surged forward. A figure materialized from the shadows, one she hadn't seen before. It was taller, its limbs unnaturally long, grotesquely out of proportion. It froze in place, its eyes two cold pinpricks of light, assessing them like a predator might assess its meal. The room behind him flickered with forgotten memories, the family portrait staring down at the horror unfolding below. "No, stay back!" Sarah shouted, shoving Lily behind her. The being's expression twisted, and it stepped closer, its voice low and rumbling, "You can't escape what dwells in the dark." As if fueling its words, the walls around them groaned with creaking, shifts and shudders echoing in a language Sarah couldn't translate. The air turned electric, thick with a weight that pressed against her lungs. "Mommy! I'm scared." Lily's whimper cut through Sarah's resolve. With a roar of defiance, she clawed at the doorknob, shoving her weight against the door, adrenaline coursing like wildfire. "No more. We have to break free." In that moment, instinct took over. She stepped aside, a quick, calculated decision, and sent Lily rushing forward. "Run. Just run." Lily darted outside, but Sarah hesitated, unable to see what lay beyond the threshold, her heart split between motherly instinct and survival. A sense of dread washed over her as more figures peeled away from the shadows, all eyes trained on her child, vulnerability radiating from Lily in waves. Could she abandon her now? The decision shattered like glass. Without thinking, Sarah jumped through the doorway after her daughter, embracing the unknown with terror-fueled desperation. The air outside was colder, but it felt free, yet tendrils of darkness pursued them from the house, slithering up the doorframe, undulating with malice. "Keep running!" she yelled at Lily, adrenaline lending strength to her voice. But as they sprinted into the icy night, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling they were being drawn toward something far worse than the house behind them. A sinister promise whispered on the wind. In the distance, beyond the trees, something gleamed, a flicker of light that beckoned. Sarah's blood ran cold as instinct screamed at her to stay away. What if it's another trap? She thought, forcing herself to halt. Yet Lily kept moving, the light drawing her in like a moth to a flame. A low, guttural laugh echoed distantly behind them, resonating with a promise of despair, the kind you can't escape even in flight. "Lily, wait!" But her voice drowned in the thin air between them as shadows loomed ever closer. Would they flee into the light and find safety, or would the darkness claim them both? The cold pressed against Sarah's skin like a ghostly hand, her breath visible in the air as they ran. Each step felt like a race against fate, echoes from the house fading into the background, but the low laughter lingered, a sinister reminder of their pursuers. She glanced over her shoulder, the darkness churned. "Lily, come back!" she shouted, her voice breaking. But her daughter was entranced, feet moving toward the shimmering light like a beacon. Alarm bells rang in Sarah's head. A flicker of warmth promised safety, or so it seemed, but she couldn't shake the feeling it was a lure, a trap set by something monstrous. "Mommy!" Lily's voice was bright against the gloom, filled with an innocent hope. "Don't go too far." Panic flooded Sarah's voice. "Stay within my sight." The trees around them loomed like dark sentinels, their branches twisting and clawing at the night. Each whispering rustle sent a chill racing down Sarah's spine. The shadows behind them thickened, slithering forward, tangible and almost alive. She sprinted after Lily, adrenaline flooding her system. Her heart raced not just from fear, but from the primal instinct to protect. What if the light was more dangerous than the shadows? With every step, the world twisted, familiar paths turned foreign and menacing. Lily. The name caught in her throat. The darkness was seeping into her confidence, turning thoughts into ugly doubts. What if she lost her? Finally, she reached her daughter, who was mesmerized by the glowing light. It pulsed like a heartbeat on the edge of the clearing. Gasping, Sarah reached out, grabbing Lily's wrist. "We can't go near it." But Lily resisted, pulling back. "Look, Mommy. It's so pretty." The glow intensified, spilling over the ground like spilled milk. Vines twisted around its edge, glittering with deceptive beauty. The moment they stepped closer, the world felt different, charged with a strange energy that tingled against their skin. "Don't." Sarah's voice surged with urgency, but too late. Lily took a tentative step forward. The light shifted, revealing glimpses of pale faces within, their features warped and sorrowful, eyes sunken and black. Something was wrong. Sarah's instincts flared, understanding cascading through her like icy water. "Lily!" she screamed, trying to yank her daughter back. "It's not safe." The reaction was instantaneous. The light flared explosively, illuminating the woods, and the faces twisted into anguished expressions. From the heart of the radiance, a warped figure surged forth, a girl, maybe 11, her visage twisted in eternal agony, hair flowing like shadows around her. She reached for Lily, mouth opening to let out a chilling wail. "Mommy!" Lily cried, fear gripping her small frame as she stumbled back. The otherworldly girl lunged, her skeletal fingers closing around the air, grasping for Lily's essence. "No!" Sarah propelled herself forward, snatching Lily, their bodies crashing into the ground. The wail of the ghost rose, echoing off the trees, a sound filled with despair that wrapped around Sarah like a shroud. As they lay on the cold, leaf-strewn ground, shadows converging around them, Sarah could feel the pressure mounting. Overhead, the branches twisted like dark claws, and the laughter returned, louder, mocking, echoing through the air. The girl from the light vanished, but the sensation of loss hung heavy. "This way!" Sarah gasped, forcing Lily to her feet. They began to run again, directionless through the trees. The laughter was louder now, a chorus of tormented souls, drawing ever nearer. But just then, a familiar sound cut through the chaos, the crunch of leaves snapping underfoot. A figure emerged from the shadows, eyes glowing with a bright malevolence. "You can't escape, Sarah," it croaked, voice like ice, "you're already lost." With dread pooling deep in her stomach, Sarah's breath hitched. Who was this new threat? What did it want? "Mommy, hold me." Lily whimpered, clinging to Sarah's side. "Stay close," Sarah said, fear and desperation mixing, threatening to swallow her whole. Something lurked in the unforgiving dark, waiting for its chance, and just like that, the forest closed in around them, shadows and whispers merging into an echo of terror. The chase was far from over. They needed to escape before the night claimed them completely. Was this the threshold of despair, or was there still hope in the surrounding darkness? The answer felt just out of reach, pulsing in time with the sinister light that still flickered behind them. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing the word "run" as they fled deeper into the woods. Dark fingers of shadow stretched out, hungry for their warmth, and the laughter morphed into something sharper, like the crack of a whip against the night air. It was a command. A dare. "Stay close, Lily." Sarah gripped her daughter's hand tighter, her nails digging into soft skin. They veered left, slipping around a massive oak tree, its gnarled roots clawing at the earth like desperate hands. The branches twisted overhead, blocking the moonlight, sending them into a suffocating darkness. The air felt thick, clinging to Sarah's skin, and dread swelled within her. "Mommy. I'm scared." Lily's voice trembled, a fragile whisper nearly lost in the cacophony of night. "Just keep running, sweetheart." Sarah propelled herself forward, but the weight of unseen eyes bore down on her, watching, waiting, and hungry. She pushed past the thought of what might lurk in those shadows, focused instead on keeping Lily safe. Another crunch echoed behind them. They weren't alone. Panic surged within Sarah, a painfully tight knot in her gut. She dared another glance over her shoulder and saw a flicker of movement amidst the trees. The figure lingered, glowing eyes fixed on them. Was it the same entity that had taunted them? Faster! She urged, and they picked up speed, darting around the trunk of another tree. Each step echoed on the damp leaves, and with every breath, the laughter morphed into a chorus that pressed against her ears. All at once, it felt as if they were running through water, the forest sucking at them, dragging them back. "Mommy! Look!" Lily squealed, pointing ahead. "Not now." Sarah's tone was sharp, her focus split between keeping pace and battling the rising shadows. But a nagging curiosity forced her to look forward. A clearing lay ahead, bathed in eerie silver light. "Not the light." The words flew from Sarah's lips like a warning shot. They had barely survived one entrapment. Surely they could not be so foolish a second time, but as they approached, the allure grew irreversible. It beckoned like an old friend, offering reprieve from the terror that chased them. "Lily, we need to get away from." Before she could finish, her daughter pulled away, stumbling toward the brightness, captivated. "Mommy, it's beautiful." "No." Sarah lunged forward, desperately grabbing Lily's arm again. Time slowed, pooling thickly around her as the laughter turned furious, a tempest of fury echoing through the air. With a swift motion, she jerked Lily back just as the light quivered, its glow growing stronger. Faces swirled within it, a cacophony of cries morphing into a single wail of despair. Those twisted features distorted with longing and rage tore at Sarah's resolve. "Run!" she commanded, turning sharply to dart in the opposite direction, but the shadows shifted too, closing their circle tighter, fueled by the turmoil they invoked. The ground beneath their feet changed from dirt to something softer, almost sponge-like, pulling at their shoes as they moved. "What is this?" Sarah gasped, knowing they were losing their way, the forest morphing in response to their fear. Suddenly, as if on cue, the laughter stilled. A chilling silence fell, so thick it was almost palpable. In its place came a voice, smooth and seductive, slicing through the dark. "You can't escape us, Sarah. Don't you see? We're part of you now." Her breath caught in her throat. The shadows flickered, revealing the faint outline of countless figures, their eyes bright, unnatural, fixating on her and Lily. They were surrounded. "Hold on!" she shouted, gripping Lily's small hand tighter as she prepared to fight back against whatever horror lay ahead. But her mind struggled against the despair creeping in, unraveling her courage with every second, and then, just as quickly as the figures had materialized, they dissipated, melting back into the darkness. The silence returned, a heavy blanket wrapped around them, but not for long. The laughter returned, this time as a whisper around them, sending shivers racing down Sarah's spine. "What now?" she whispered, fear throbbing in her chest like a wounded animal. As if answering her, the air grew cold again, and the shadows deepened, spilling forth a presence she could almost feel wrapping around her. There was nowhere left to run, and something was coming. Would they be the next victims of this malevolent force, or was this the moment they would find strength against the darkness closing in? The answer hung in the air, as heavy as the dread gathering around them. The forest seemed to pulse around them, alive with a malevolence that throbbed in rhythm with Sarah's racing heart. Silence deepened, so thick it wrapped around her like a vice, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She could feel the weight of the unseen eyes again, every whisper of shadow tightening its grip on them as if drawing them further into the depths of a darkened nightmare. Mommy Lily's voice broke the stillness, shaking with a mixture of fear and innocence. "What's happening?" "I don't know, sweetie," Sarah whispered, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine comfort. "Just stay close." Her fingers tightened around Lily's hand, but her own heart trembled with uncertainty. She turned her gaze to where the shadows danced, twisting in the corners of her vision like fleeting thoughts. A sudden cacophony erupted beyond the trees, a shattering of branches that sent a bolt of terror through her. Sarah steeled herself, drawing in a breath that felt impossibly heavy. "We have to keep moving," she urged, and they stumbled forward, each step an act of defiance against the shadows that clawed at their heels. The forest felt different now, the trees bending closer, their bark appearing almost sentient, whispering secrets that chilled Sarah to the bone. She noticed the way the branches seemed to point deeper into the woods, guiding her, tempting her towards something dreadful. The hair on her neck prickled as a low growl resonated from behind, fangs bared in the unseen dark. "Mommy, I can't move, it hurts," Lily cried out, stumbling against the thickening ground. Sarah turned to help her, but a chill slithered around them, roots constricting their ankles like cold fingers grasping. "We have to push through," Sarah shouted, panic clawing at her throat. With a fierce tug, she pulled Lily upright, her resolve hardening as she fought against the binding terror. They surged forward with desperation, the forest's malevolence howling in protest. A brief flash of gray darted past, too quick to pinpoint, but Sarah felt its presence. It hung in the air, heavy with threat. "What was that?" she gasped, glancing back. The shadows seemed to laugh, their amusement echoing from the darkened void. And there they were again, those piercing eyes, glowing with malice. "Mommy, I can't see," Lily whimpered, her voice wavered with fear. "It's okay. Just follow my voice." Each heartbeat rang in Sarah's ears, drowning out the forest's sinister song, as she led them away, deeper into the unknown. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through the trees, carrying the terrifying laughter that reverberated within Sarah's bones, wrapping around her like a shroud. "You shouldn't have come here. It knows your fears," the dark voice whispered tauntingly, echoing the depths of an unseen abyss. Sarah felt the air grow thick with dread, each breath a struggle against the unseen force suffocating her. The shadows swirled, thickening around them, disorienting in their weight and intensity. She fought against despair, but every flicker of movement sent another jolt of fear through her. Then, in a moment of desperate clarity, she grasped Lily's hand tighter, eyes wide with fierce determination. "We have to believe. We can't let them win." But another roar erupted from the dark, vibrating through the forest's spine. Shadows twisted, forming shapes too horrific to fully comprehend. Sarah's stomach churned as they started shifting, almost human yet twisted grotesquely, past the cusp of normalcy, eyes glinting with a hunger that promised to consume. The forest seemed to narrow around them, pushing closer, suffocating. Suddenly, Sarah spotted a flicker of light beyond the trees, faint yet inviting. "There. We can make it," she urged, instinctively pulling Lily along, but the shadows erupted into a frenzy, encircling them like a storm. "Stop!" they hissed, the figures gaining form, a writhing mass of gnarled faces bearing down on them. The unseen weight of their presence pressed in, urging her to succumb, to surrender. "Hold my hand, Lily. Don't let go." As they charged towards the light, something pulled at her, feasting on her fears. Would they escape or be consumed by the very darkness they tried to elude? Before she could ascertain, a deafening roar shattered the night, and everything faded into chaos. What would emerge from the shadows? Would they find salvation, or was the darkness merely waiting to claim its due? The world blurred into a whirlpool of shadow and terror. Sarah clutched Lily so tightly that her fingers began to ache, yet in that frantic grip, she found a flicker of strength. The darkness around them roared, a cacophony of whispers and growls converging into a nightmarish symphony. As they ran, the light beyond the trees grew, pulsing like a heartbeat, a beacon amidst the dark shroud. It called to her, pulling her, beckoning both hope and dread with equal force. "We're almost there," she shouted, though doubt clawed at her insides. How could they ever escape when the shadows seemed to be alive, writhing in anger at their flight? But then the earth shifted beneath her feet, a sudden lurch of the ground that fumbled her steps. More roots sprang up, eager to snare them. "No!" Not now. She shouted as she stumbled, the branches overhead now reaching out like skeletal hands, desperately trying to drag them back into their chilling embrace. Lily! She cried, feeling a surge of terror as she turned to see her daughter's face twisted in pain, struggling against the tightening grip of the forest. She was sinking, lost to the darkness creeping around her small legs. "Mommy, it hurts." The innocence in her voice squeezed Sarah's heart, but she wouldn't allow the forest to win. The light flickered again, right in her sights, both promising and treacherous. "A few more steps, Lily," she yelled. But the shadows hissed back, voices blending into a sinister chant of sorrow and torment. "Join us, so easy, so sweet." The forest floor cracked, splitting open beneath them, reveling in chaos. Sarah felt a thrust of horror as she glanced down at the fissure, writhing with the darkness, fangs gnashing from the depths. "Hold on tight." Panic surged through her, a boiling dread. She gripped Lily harder, the warmth of her daughter a lifeline amidst the overwhelming cold. With one last push, they lunged toward the light. The beams flickered and danced, illuminating patches of the sinister landscape, bringing fleeting clarity. Sarah could see figures moving, still shadowy but distinct, weaving through the underbrush a procession of something unholy yet undeniably human. "Mommy, are they good?" Lily's voice trembled. Sarah swallowed hard, fear tightening in her throat. She didn't know what lay ahead. The light beckoned her, while the shadows howled, but who were the wraith-like figures poised on the edges between? Allies or enemies? "Stay close." She squared her shoulders, determined, as they plunged into the burning embrace of the light. The darkness hissed, its frustration palpable, striking at them from all sides like a beast denied its meal. Sarah sensed they were crossing into another realm, a boundary where hope and despair collided. Suddenly, the light exploded around them, blinding her momentarily. She shielded her eyes, and as the brightness subsided, she glimpsed their surroundings, a clearing, untouched, where the forest's malevolence begrudgingly receded. But the air was thick with unease. Figures emerged from the trees, faces partially obscured by shadow yet strangely familiar, twisted and wild, as though they had emerged from a bad dream. Sarah's heart raced again, realizing she had crossed into a new peril. "Who are you?" she gasped as the moment of safety turned to dread. The figures stepped closer, their movements unnaturally fluid, grinning with expressions that didn't fit human contours, they surrounding her and Lily, whispers becoming shouts, echoing her own fears, mocking her. "Come play, come join us forever, Mommy," Lily whimpered, clutching her tightly. Sarah's breath caught. What was it they wanted? And were they truly out of the darkness, or had they only stepped deeper into a new horror? The figures inched closer, shadows dripping off their limbs like oil. As the tension mounted, a chilling realization washed over her. This was more than survival, it was a twisted game of fate, one from which she feared they might never escape. Would she find a way to fight back or be swallowed by the night that awaited them, hungry for another meal? The question hung in the air like a spectral echo, foretelling their impending doom. Sarah felt a surge of desperation swell inside her, the weight of her daughter's trembling hand reminding her that hope was slipping away fast. The figures around them shifted, their wild eyes glimmering with an unnatural light, and their laughter melded into a chorus of mockery that threatened to drown her in despair. "Don't listen to them," Sarah shouted, pulling Lily closer as she scanned the encircling shadows. Each figure wore a facade of sorrow and malevolence, reminiscent of all those who had vanished into these woods. They screeched longings that twisted their voices, like sorrowful melodies trying to draw them back. "We have to find our way out." She tightened her grip, muscles screaming from the effort. The flickering light in the clearing pulsed in time with her heartbeat, promising reprieve. "Follow me, Lily. Run." The words were a lifeline, and together they surged toward the glow. The darkness screeched behind them, shadows lashing out like serpents, desperately trying to reclaim their prey. Each step felt like a betrayal to the unseen horrors that had once claimed the paradise of this very scene. Vegetation seemed to recoil as they raced forward, tearing at branches and roots, the forest itself appearing to conspire against them. "We're almost there," Sarah urged, her voice raw and hoarse. The light shimmered brighter, morphing with shades of gold and warmth, a stark contrast to the chilling despair around them. Every nerve throbbed with urgency as she felt the darkness clawing, furious at their flight, disembodied voices rising into a frenzy around them. "Don T, stop." Just as Lily stumbled, roots coiling around her ankle, Sarah spun back, throwing herself into the fray. "I've got you. Grab my hand." She tugged her daughter free, liberating her from the clutches of the forest. They sprinted, hearts hammering, drawing a bead on the radiance awaiting them like a sanctuary from hell. As they burst from the underbrush, a jarring howl erupted behind them, echoing off the trees, a cacophony of rage and hunger. Sarah felt a sharp pain in her chest, a mixture of fear and resolve roaring through her veins. The growls grew closer, loomed larger, threatening to engulf them. "That way." She pointed, instinct guiding them toward a large stone formation that cradled the extraterrestrial light. It seemed almost alive, shimmering with unparalleled brilliance. In that moment, clarity surged through Sarah. This was not simply an escape, it was a confrontation. "Come to me." The figures hissed, their distorted forms pulsating. They reached out, fingers stretching, faces twisting into grotesque masks of despair. Something about remaining would trap them. A deep revulsion knotted in her gut as she caught Lily's gaze, fear etched on her features. "Trust me," she shouted, urging Lily forward. "We have to jump." Without allowing even a breath for doubt, she took hold of her daughter's tiny waist, propelled by adrenaline as they rushed toward the stone. The world blurred around them, then, they leapt, they fell into the glowing light, and it enveloped them, wrapping around them like warm silk, pulling them into its brightness. For an instant, they hovered in a place that felt suspended between dread and salvation. "Mommy." Lily's eyes widened, fear giving way to awe as they were drawn closer to the heart of the luminescence. And just like that, they break through. A wave of warmth engulfed them, washing away the chill that had claimed their bodies, seeping into their bones. They tumbled onto a soft, grassy clearing, vibrant and alive, the intertwining trees no longer suffocating them but standing sentinel on its periphery. Breathless, Sarah looked around, disbelief coloring every sensation. The forest loomed back, sinister and dark, but the pull of despair weakened. They were free. Free. "Mommy, we did it. We're safe." Lily squealed, joy erupting on her face. But Sarah's heart still trembled. Their escape felt too easy, the foreboding presence still lingering beyond the edge of the light, yet for now, they were together, alive. Swallowing her fear, Sarah knelt down and wrapped her arms around Lily, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. "Yes, sweet girl, we're safe. We found a way together." But shadows seemed to murmur from the depths of the forest, reminders that the darkness never truly vanishes. As Sarah looked back at the ominous woods, a chill tightened her spine. "Promise me we'll never go back," Lily whispered, small and innocent. "I promise," Sarah whispered back, pulling her daughter close, as they stood tall against the encroaching dusk. They had escaped for now, true, but the forest's secrets would always linger in the breeze, reminder of the horrors lurking just beyond the light, but freedom that was worth fighting for. As they walked away from the edge of the woods, Sarah held Lily tight, knowing they would never lose their way again. Not if they trusted the light within, stronger than any shadow that dared approach. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.